I had a different week this week. I had the pleasure of being at the Unity Eastern Regional Conference in New Jersey, and I am so appreciative of the board and this community of sending me there. In the last couple of years, I have been challenged to find LSGBS about some things that are going on at Unity. LSGBS, for those who weren't here, is Let Something Good Be Said. But I had the opportunity to meet with Jim Blake, who's the new CEO, well, he's not new anymore, he's been there for a little while, of Unity Worldwide Headquarters, and spent some time. And it's the first time I've ever met someone from the village that sat down and the first question was, well, tell me how your ministry's going. And I went, wow, that's a shift. And I had the opportunity to hear a lot of the great things that are happening at the village, for instance, and I won't go into it all today, but I will do a report to the board, which will be in the minutes that you can read about. Someone just gifted $1 million to Unity Worldwide, not Unity Headquarters, as seed money to build a state-of-the-art performing arts center that'll be at the village. And they don't know yet how many millions it's going to cost, but it's going to be absolutely state-of-the-art and something all of us can be really proud of, because we're finding through performing arts is something really important that we can bring to the world. And I had the opportunity to have a meal with Tony Fish, who's the president right now of Unity Worldwide Ministries. So there's two separate out there. One is the ones that work with the churches, the other is the one that does the village and silent unity and all those things. And it was so interesting because some of you who know have got the communications that 3 board members resigned, a CEO resigned, and a CFO. So there's turmoil going. But what was so interesting in the turmoil is this incredible opportunity for change. And the only way I can summarize the change that I heard from out there is the movement and the shift from we are those to police what you're doing out there to we want to be coaches, because we get the input of 400 churches around the world and things that are working and things that have challenges, and we want to be that funnel, be able to bring that to the local individual community. I said, yes, it's really good. So we're seeing a consciousness change. And the folks who are ahead of it are speaking those words. We got to change the energy. We got to change the consciousness. I was like, they've been listening to Unity Harrisburg, making it happen. I was so thrilled with everything that's going. So, also, it was very interesting. I met Jackie Woodside. I knew Jackie from my days in Massachusetts. She was a board president and a founding member of Unity on the River in Amesbury, which had been in kind of it was held up as a standard for what was happening in the last 20 years. Well, they've fallen on some really difficult times and whatnot, but I got to know Jackie then and what Reverend Shipley had done in that whole strip mall and just made it an exciting thing as it was happening there. She's now in DC and she's a full-time author, coach, motivational speaker, and she was there to teach Money Vibe to the ministers. And it was so interesting because she held us responsible for the money vibe within our communities and created a lot of eyebrows and a lot of uncomfort in the ministers left and right of me. But I was like, yeah, that's right. So I've kind of engaged with her. She has a 30-day challenge, money vibe challenge. And Jack and I signed up for it and we're doing the work. We're like 4 days into it. But her work is just fantastic, and I'm working to get her here to help us. And I thought it was divine plan that we voted on Sunday to take on this big challenge for our community financially. And here I was meeting with someone on Tuesday. He was saying, but you're responsible to up your money line. And I was like, okay, I get it. So I'm looking forward to see how that unfolds as we go forward. So it was a great 3 days. And as some of you may know, Darla Henry, Dr. Darla Henry, is on the board of the Eastern region, and they did a phenomenal job. I heard ministers saying it was the best conference they've gone to in the last 20, 30 years. So Wonderful, wonderful time to be with over 100 folks, and the region goes from Maine to Virginia to Western New York. So a lot of input and a lot of exciting things that are happening in the unity movement. Okay, to today, chapter 6, divine love, universal love. For those that are following along and have read this chapter, Butterworth again takes us to another place. And I had to think about this past week because we had just done 3 levels of universal love. And none of that gets pushed aside, but what he does here is captures it in a different way, I think, and takes us in consciousness, in energy, to a different place about love. And I really love what he's doing here in this chapter. As you know, it's coming from this series we've talked about, and this is one of the things I think is so important is on the back flap of the book. This is all done in this context. And he's one of the only unity ministers that puts it right on the back flap for us. Everything that God's going to do has been done. And the 50 centuries of getting down on your knees and, oh, won't you do something different for me, hasn't worked. It's called praying amiss. And in the next chapter, we get into prayer, the way Butterworth takes us in another place, I think, again. But it's all been done, and how we know that? Because we were created in the image and likeness of the all. We have it all. So it's not about going out and grabbing things and learning things and all this. It's about remembering who we are. Who we are is our true being within the very center core of ourselves. And that's the challenge. But the potential is there for every of the 7.5 billion humans on this planet. And when you begin to think from this context of what does this really mean, not only in my life, but you begin to see, and I say this over and over again, Jack and I do when we see kids on TV or performing, or you see the light in their eyes, or you see the kid energy up here in the mornings. I said, this planet, this society is in great shape when our consciousness goes. And we're seeing kids come in with a whole new approach. They're remembering better than we did who they truly are. How do I know? Because I can look into their eyes and into their soul, and they get it. I am the light. Maybe unconsciously at this point when they're small, but they're at a different place than when you and I came in, however many years ago. And Butterworth says here it's our greatest privilege to remember who we are. And he gives us stepping stones along the way in this book of how to do that. How to awaken to the truth of who you are. We don't need any gurus. We don't need any ministers. You don't need any priests. You don't need anyone but yourself to open up to the truth of who you are. You are the allness of the universe. Potential. How much you bring forth of that every day is determined by you and by me and my life. So I talked a lot about this. I won't do a lot today. Reframing, what Butterworth does here is reframe a lot of religious words. We reframe God to allness. We reframe the Christ within you to eachness. What does eachness mean? It means that each of us here are the all of the allness. All of it. But we only receive and be part of who we are, the potential of what we're willing to receive and accept. We have been trained by society and others that we are less than the all. Have we not? And that's a lie. A bald-faced lie. Because you and I are all of it. But only what we bring forth, what we're willing to acknowledge. What we're willing to acknowledge is us. Not someone out there, not this person, not that person. You and me. We went on to talk about incidents do not cause your thoughts. The first Sunday I did this, eyebrows went up. By the third Sunday now, everybody's, okay, cool, get it. But it's a level of personal responsibility. There's no more room to blame anyone for your thoughts. Because the meaning that you and I put to whatever occurs in life is based upon our belief system. And we create the thought that puts the meaning to the event. And since we create it, we can create a new one, if we wish. We put the meaning to our thoughts. And then the next chapter we went into, the beginning was the Word. And the word as we used here, the translation was logos. It means power behind the word, not just words. It means we have to have this feeling, we have to have this knowing, we have to know who we are. As we begin to move through this process of moving to, if you're willing, and if you're willing to set the intention, to use LSGBS, let something good be said here. Jacqueline and I are working together on this, because I don't know about you, that if you're in a relationship where if you say to someone, well, you know, honey, you're not being very positive there, that's not often received really well, is it? I'll show you positive. And we engaged in the ego of who's more positive. How silly is that? But we found that this phrase has taken out the ego and no meaning being put to it, but oh yeah, I need to look at what I just said. And I'm finding it is really, really helpful. And as you begin in a relationship or you begin in your house to really move to something good being said here, why is that important? Because is that not what you and I want in our lives? More good. So we create from our logos, from the power behind our words, and we create what's going on in our lives through the words we speak. Logos. Charles said it's the creative power. It's causal. Cause is the effect. That's the power you and I have. But we don't own it a lot, do we? It's like, oh, well, it's just words. But our subconscious doesn't take a joke. It takes everything you and I say as causal, not casual. It says, okay, if that's what you want, we'll go out and make sure we attract some more of that. And then last week was faith. A whole nother level of faith. And I don't know how many of you worked with this week, but I was using it at this conference over and over again. When you really get it, that the universe and the allness and God, whatever word you want to use for that, believes in you and has faith in you and is confident that you know how to do it, it changes what happens during the day. Does it not? That's a level of faith we haven't been taught before. And it's our responsibility to get there. I think this slide we used last week. God, source, creator, allness, has confidence in me. That is not big-headed. That is not. We were taught, well, you're getting too big a head on you. This is not what this is. This is understanding that the allness of the universe has complete and total confidence and belief in you. That's waking up to another level of power and another level of faith as it flows through. So we get to this week of love. Love is one of those words, is it not? It's used in many, many, many different ways. In the humanness, it's used as a condition. If you give me what I need and want, I love you. That's called conditional love. This is not that. This is unconditional, without condition. But what Butterworth says is we really, really haven't learned what this is. So he says within each and every one of us, and see if this is true for you, there's a little bit of divine discontent, he calls it. We're a little bit discontent with our lives. And there's something within us that says, I can be better than this. I can be bigger than this. I can grow into something no matter what age I am or what economic strata I am. There are no limits to what I can become. We have that innately within us. We come designed with it. Now, have we shoveled stuff on top of it? Sure. But as we're moving through it to get back and awaken to the truth that's within us, we know there's something better than we can do. To be more than we are in this moment. Divine discontent. He said, don't shove this aside. Embrace it. Start to ask the question, what else can I do? Here I am today. What else can I do? And begin to listen and then do. I think it was the Quakers that said they pray and then they get moving, right? Versus sitting there going, oh, waiting for it to fall in your lap. This is not that. This is this discontent of getting connected with it and saying, okay, there's something better for me to do. What is it? And let me get about it when you hear the answer and get started. So any of you who have been in a fundamental church, or any church probably, including Unity, every minister goes to here, 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians. It's called the love chapter. But this is the piece most ministers miss. And we're not going to miss it here today. Because Apostle Paul says all these things you can do. All these great things you can do. You can do amazing things in charity. You can do things in helping other people. You can be in a helping industry. But if you don't have this, you have nothing. Without love, you are nothing. Whoa. That's pretty in your face. Written 2,000 plus years ago. Said, unless you have this divine love flowing through you, no matter what good you do out there, or no matter what you do, period, you are nothing unless you will understand how to love at this level. Desjardins was, I think, in the early 1900s. Or Desjardins, I guess, most folks say. And he was the one that said that I know of, that said we are spiritual beings having this physical experience. And we don't know it. We didn't wake up yet to that. But what he says about love here is really interesting. It's the completeness of life. It's the totality of life. All flowing through you in what's called divine love. All of life. It's bigger than what we have focused on in the past. So he goes on to say this, love is non-verbal. How many think you get a check when you say, I love you? Check. If I say it 5 times a day, check, 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 I'm good. That's not what this is about. Now, I don't know about you, but I love to hear from Jacqueline, she loves me. But it's more than that. It's more than the verbal. And what he's saying here is we want to go beyond that definition. And listen to this. It's the actual expression of being loving. So when we're connected to divine love, it can only show up one way. And that's, are we being loving? And if we're not, we're disconnected from love. We can try to fool ourselves, but we know the difference. You and I know when we're in the flow of love, divine love. And how it shows forth is in how we interact. Better to give than receive is always plays out in this spiritual journey. And it most plays out right here, right now. With understanding divine love is you and I showing forth love. That's the change that Butterworth is showing us here. And it allows us to do the self-inspection, the self-assessment of where we are. It's not my job as minister to assess that for you. That's your job. And the more connected to divine love and the more of it's flowing through us, you're going to see it manifest in the relationships that you see during the week. Butterworth goes on to say here, we must change this basic belief. The belief that we came here empty is not true. You came here complete. And that we must go through life and find love in all the wrong places. It's false. It's within you and I. It's created in the likeness and image of what? Allness. What is allness? Love. So we were taught that we came empty. And we got to go find it. And many of us have chased after it in many places. And we're so disappointed afterwards. Because it's already here within you and me. We are created out of love. God is love. Then therefore we are love. In potential. Until we recognize it, acknowledge it, and bring it forth. And realize it by how? By being loving. And then we're in the flow. Up until we're loving, it's still potential. It's still shut off. But as we open the flow by how we interact with everyone else in life, opens the gate. You've seen this from me many times. I call it the vortex of energy. But it's so interesting in here because this vortex is not true. It has love number 3, down from the top. The master teacher, Jesus, says love number 1. Higher than peace, joy, and all these other good things on the way up. But still, even in our example that missed that piece, you can see how important love is. And where we get connected in the frequency and the vibration of that energy as it flows through us. That's love, because we're loving. In this being misled, we have also been taught that the greatest need we have is to be loved. Butterworth says our greatest need is to love. You get the change? Really important change. Our greatest need is for someone to love us. No. Our greatest need is to love them. And then it opens up the flow. And we know we're loved. Meister Eckhart said this. And if you remember, when we get to the prayer section, he had the greatest prayer is thank you. And once we begin to understand what he's talking about here, this connection to this incredible force called love. He says, let God be God within you. Let the allness be the allness within you. Let love be the love at the very root of your being. And then it flows. I have within me all the love of the universe. Do you believe that? It's a true statement. And potential. But only as you begin to acknowledge it, and only as you begin to experience it. And how do you do that? You simply open up to it. I am the love of the universe. And I'm going to be loving. And the flow begins to happen. Another way to say this, in maybe more current words, is that love from the divine flow of a cosmic consciousness. This allness, this all power, this all knowingness, in what the energy that flows from it is called love. But until we connect with it, until we release it within ourselves, it just is there. But it's that powerful. It's what holds the universe in place. And we can leave this planet not experiencing it. And many people have. We've seen them in our own lives. They checked out at 80-some years old, and it was like, wow, they missed the whole journey. Because the journey is about connecting with who we are, truly, with this love, by letting it flow out. The master teacher said this, right? Number 2 was, love thy neighbor. Butterworth says bad translation. It should say, love to your neighbor. Now it makes more sense in this flowingness of being loving. As I love to my neighbor, which my neighbor includes all 7.5 billion. Back then they didn't have that many. You've noticed just since I've been here the last year, it went from 7.4 to 7.5 billion. Quantum explosion. But what it means for you and me is that we have more people to be loving to. Right? 0.1 billion more since a year ago. Love to your neighbor is number 2. Love from source to your neighbor as to yourself. Acting loving. This emphasis of divine love is on you and me. It is. It exists. It is real. You can connect to it. You can make it flow through you. It can be every piece of every minute of your day. But it's up to you and me to make that happen. We are the ones who keep the cosmic flow. Or not. And some of the things that we've studied in the last couple of weeks of our thoughts and our words. Jackie Woodside says your vibe is determined by your beat, belief, your emotions, your attitudes, and your thoughts. We create our vibe. We create whether the love flows through us or does not. We have to keep that flow going. Why in the world must I love my enemies? This is a teaching that churchianity has dropped, has it not? We don't hear this anymore. You're to love those who despitefully use you. Yeah, right. I'm going to knock them into next Tuesday. That's not what the teaching is. The teaching is to allow this divine love flow through us to the part where we love those who judge us, who criticize us, who make fun of us, who are different than we are. This is the inclusion that goes with divine love, not exclusion. And why must I love my enemies? I don't like to do this. I don't know about you. This is not easy work, is it? But here's why you must. Because you deserve it. I deserve it. I deserve not to shut down the cosmic flow of divine love. And to do that, I have to keep doing this. Not easy. If we resist or resent those, shut down the flow. That's why the master teacher taught, resist not negativity. Agree with your adversary quickly. Don't engage in that stuff. It's not important. It's nowhere near as important. It's just egoic stuff anyway, trying to defend your thoughts being right versus staying in the flow of divine love. That's the choice you and I make every minute of every day. We stop the flow. No one else. Butterworth talks about the fish hook. The fish hook is where it engages you in their stuff. He's mean. That could be a fact. There are people who are mean, are there not? But here's the fish hook. To me. Now I'm hooked. Right? Now I gotta fight. I gotta defend. I gotta find something better to come back at him with. The fish hook happens when we make it personal. If we can stay distanced and say, well, that person just is who they are and they're on their journey, and I'll send them with love and blessings, and not let the fish hook bring us in. Watch the fish hook this week. You go, the fish hook showed up again. Making it personal is the fish hook. He talks about using namaskar, which is a more direct than namaste. Namaskar means the divinity, I honor the divinity within you from the divinity within me. Very similar. But he said, go there. Instead of getting caught in the fish hook, probably don't want to do this. You could be standing in line and namaskar somebody and they'll send you away. But you can do it in your mind and you can say, namaskar, I honor you, I honor your journey. You want to be angry today, you go ahead and be angry. I'm not going to get engaged in your stuff. You are not hooking me with the fish hook here. Namaskar. I honor that light within you. I honor that love within you from the love within me. Never try to love someone but a word says. How many times have we heard other people, I know we don't say that here, but I tried to love that person. You just couldn't believe how much I tried to love them. Love is not giving something. It's being something. Be love, not try to love. Stop trying to love, Butterworth said, and here's how. Get yourself centered, get in the presence, block out the situation, stop looking at the person, and let love flow through you. Release the fish hook. Center yourself in the presence, block out the egoic situation, stop looking at the person, and let love flow. Disengage in the humanness and come back to the divine. Last Sunday we talked about Emmett Fox, the Golden King. There's another way to say this. Distance, relax, feel the flow. And all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what they say. It's like, okay, cool. If that's what you believe, knock yourself out. I'm not going to get engaged. I'm not going to be fish hooked in anymore. Meister Eckhart said this, you can call God many things. Love, goodness. He said, but the greatest name you can call God is compassion. Compassionate. It's the action of love that matters. The rest of it's just words and just ideas in your head. But how you treat others tells you if you're in the flow or not. So how we know we're in the flow of love is when we are kind and compassionate. That opens the flow. Give, we receive. And it also gives us a tool. At the end of the day, we can self-assess. We can say, well, how was I today? Was I kind and compassionate? Well, not so much there, because we're going to focus on the one we weren't, right? Normal. What do? Just ask yourself, what would I do if I had that to do over again? How would I be kind and compassionate? And let that be how you go to sleep at night. But you can self-assess your day every day by this. And if it comes back, you know what? I was pretty much today. I'm proud of that. You know you're in the flow of divine love. And the rest of the stuff is just words. Because if you're here, the rest of it goes away. The last thing he says, let your eyes be fountains of love. And we're going to practice that in our meditation. But the way you do this is you close your eyes. And I want you to pick someone out in this congregation today. And when you close your eyes, you're going to let your eyes be fountains, he said, of this divine love flowing through you to them. And hold that until you see them illuminate, light up. And this is the way we do. Let you yourself be the light to the world. We are the light to the world when we light up other people, then we get lit. Otherwise, it's just words. So we're going to do this exercise in the meditation. I'll finish then with Butterworth's meditation for love. So let's start with just a couple deep breaths. And I will bring the lights down. Thank you. Get centered. And if it feels right for you to look up slightly with your spiritual eyes, you can focus on the center of your forehead, opening up the pineal gland to the divine flow of love, the golden white light. As you open up to that light and it fills your mind, know that the divine flow, the cosmic flow of love, flowing through your mind into your heart. Feel it. Feel the emotion, energy and motion of divine love in your heart. You can feel it when you're connected. And now allow it to sink into your belly, into your subconscious mind, into your soul. Your whole being is filled with divine love. And now through your spiritual eyes, with your physical eyes closed, in your mind's eye, picture someone here in this room. And let your spiritual eyes be fountains of love. Let this divine love flow through you, out your spiritual eyes, surrounding them, and just hold this while I go quiet and watch them light up. Send that love forth through your fountains of your spiritual eyes, and you see them light up. Look at what happens to you. Now, you are the true light to this world. By giving love, by being loving and compassionate, by sending them on with a blessing and love. You and I become blessed from the divine love that flows through us. And as Butterworth's meditation, let's be still for this moment. And in this stillness, I want you to remember that scriptural statement. Behold, I have loved you with an everlasting love. You are loved. You are the activity of the divine process of love flowing forth through you, as you. And right now you are centered in that contact with the inner flow of cosmic love. Thus all love in the universe is at your command. No one in all the world has any more love than you. And yet it's not something to give away. It's something to enable you to feel secure in an energy process so that you can see through this consciousness. See life in general. See the world out there. Even in the mundane things that the news accounts reveal, in the people around you, in the people close to you, you can see in all this the consciousness of love. In this consciousness, Praise God. Praise the alms for the truth that makes you free. And so it is.